Howdy, guys. Welcome back to the 3 of 7 podcast. We have a really good interview-style episode for you today with a good friend of ours named Rob Edens. In this episode, we talk a lot about how to reach younger people or youth with the gospel, all right? We talk about the major challenges that today's youth are faced with and how the challenges that younger people have today are pretty unique. It's an interesting conversation. It brought a lot of perspective to me personally, and it challenged me on multiple levels. Rob is an amazing man, an amazing husband, father, servant of Christ. I promise you, you're going to want to hear what he has to say on today's episode. This particular interview is brought to you by our partners at Barbell Apparel. You guys have heard me talk about Barbell for a while now. That's because they've been supporting us here at 3 of 7 Project for a long time. We have ran Barbell Apparel through the paces, man. And let me tell you, their products have really stood up to everything that we've thrown at them. Not only do they have an amazing product, everything from the running shorts to the ultralight tech tee to the amazing jeans that they actually make jeans that are comfortable, that are made to fit athletic people, that actually move with your body, have a little stretch to them, but they're still durable enough to go out and work on your 1983 FJ60 Land Cruiser in, and you don't got to worry about tearing a hole in them, and you don't got to worry about them binding you up because they're made to move with you and to fit you. You probably are fairly athletic if you listen to me much, but maybe not. Maybe you're on your journey to get there. Anyways, not only are the products amazing, but they're awesome people. Let me tell you what, not a lot of companies really reach out and want to support 3 of 7 Project. A lot of people will go and kind of look at the YouTube channel and maybe look at some of my posts and all this stuff, and they say, man, this guy's a Christian. This guy is outspoken. This guy has some, I don't know if you'd call him, I would just say pro-American freedom type views. We're not going to get involved in what they're doing. Well, Barbell's not like that. They've supported us every step of the way. And let me tell you right now, that means a tremendous amount to us. They've partnered with us on a whole lineup of clothing, the 1 Mile Out lineup. You guys check that stuff out too. There's a link to their website in the show notes of this episode. It's barbellapparel.com. Amazing people, an amazing company with awesome products that are going to help fit you better in every walk of life, from your day-to-day to your fitness journeys. I think you will enjoy what they produce. It matters. Support the companies that support this podcast. It matters to us, and it should matter to you where you spend your money. I'm not telling you what to do, but it matters to me where I spend my money. I guess I can only speak for myself. All right, without further ado, here's my brother, Rob Edens, and Brooke's also on this podcast, so I know you guys love it when Brooke's in. So she's in the house today too. Enjoy it. Love you guys. Enough said.
So we weren't supposed to go live yet, just so you guys know.
How's your headphone volume?
It's good.
Okay. All right, tech guy. I guess we're good. All right. YouTube's used to things being screwed up around here, so
Tech guy's substitute is already failing at her job.
happens.
If you need me, just text me or call me.
Happens every single episode.
Thank you, Blake. Oops.
All right, everyone. If you're live on YouTube, welcome to the 3 of 7 podcast. I know you're not used to us being live here on YouTube on a Tuesday, but this is a special episode that, if you listen to the audio, on the 3 of 7 podcast, most of our episodes are on Wednesdays, and it's just us on here talking a bunch of crap to each other. But every now and then, we have the good fortune of bringing in a interesting guest and doing an interview style show. And so that's who we have a very dear friend of ours and a amazing human being that has a lot to say, not only about what he's chosen to dedicate his life to within the body of Christ, but also in his fitness, his weight loss journey. He's come a long ways, done a lot of awesome things. We love him. His name is Rob Edens. And so we have Rob on the podcast today. It's going to be an interview style. First time you've seen this on YouTube.
Yep.
Because we have a tech girl behind the control center today.
Y'all don't expect anything special today because I already accidentally went live before we were ready.
This could cut off at any moment. By the way,
the theme of this podcast is the youths. Rob's got some major insight into the youths.
Well, to make you feel better, my whole life is just a comedy of errors. So it's starting off right.
He's also got a beautiful podcasting voice. Did you just hear that?
He sounds really good. It's really like low key.
I'm a professional.
Why don't you have your own podcast, dude?
I've got nothing interesting to say.
Oh, that's not true.
Man.
Wait, what are you about to do?
Is there anybody watching this on YouTube?
So far we got 62 people.
Okay, all right.
Can I say something?
What's up, YouTube? Can
I say something really quick before you get started? What are you doing?
Go ahead, Sweet Pea. I just got to write Rob's name down so I don't forget it.
You should put in there as Robert. That's my legal name.
So,
well, I'm going to
Robbie.
say Rob parentheses Robbie.
Okay, so real quick, last podcast you tried to trigger me with saying I am disrespectful to you and the people don't like it and all this stuff. And I just wanted to tell the people who think that I'm disrespectful to you what you did to me the other day when we were arguing.
Okay, as long as I can first start with telling them what you did to me.
How about
in the very
this?
beginning of the day.
Oh, okay. Can we make this can we keep this under 3 minutes?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, well, go ahead. Tell them what I did.
So
first.
I wake up, whatever morning this was, last week or whatever.
Sorry, Rob.
To a
It's all good.
Instagram video, a story post that Brooke makes, and she's standing out in front of the house. I have if you guys don't know, you haven't been watching, but I have a very beautiful Land Cruiser. It's probably the most immaculate example of a FJ60 Land Cruiser in the whole state, okay?
3 minutes.
I
Keep
see
it
a
at 3
video
minutes.
where Brooke is standing out in front of the house with her stinking cell phone as a chicken flies up onto the hood of my Land Cruiser.
It was already there.
And starts sliding around on the hood of the Land Cruiser. And she instead of shooing the chicken off, she's standing there with her phone, laughing, saying, "But Pops ain't gonna like this." And she makes a post on about it, and I'm sitting here like, this is like those people that when something happens out in public, like somebody starts beating up an old lady, instead of helping the old lady, they pull their freaking phones out, man.
So you're calling your truck an old lady?
Thank you,
It
Rob.
is.
I was gonna make
It's
sure.
40-something years old, man.
So if people know anything about the behavior of chickens, the chicken was kind of walking nicely. At one point, it started to slide off the truck, and that was when things went south. But if I would have approached the chicken, since that was one of our spaz chickens, it probably would have done more damage but being spooked than it was just relaxing on your truck. So that was my thought, was I was going to give it space. You know how wild animals freak out when you approach them?
I'm sure that was your thought as you were filming it and laughing
Regardless.
about it.
So you're saying this is
Sure,
why...
that's what you were thinking.
So this is the excuse for the story I'm about to tell. So I manage property for a living, and our house is kind of in a weird way attached to a property I manage. And the driveway is very long.
People don't need to know all this about where we live, by the way.
I didn't tell anybody about anything about
I was
where we live.
blocking the driveway while I was washing my truck.
Why are you being so rude?
I'm just saying.
So I go up the driveway.
You can get a little carried away sometimes.
I can't with him today. And I pull up behind him, and there's literally 16 different places, and I'm not exaggerating, that he could wash his truck where a hose could be hooked up and he could park it. And he's blocking the driveway, and I have people coming up there to work. So I get out of my car, and I wasn't yelling, but I definitely wasn't hey, I wasn't being friendly. And I said, why are you blocking the driveway? And I went to say, there are multiple places that you could wash it other than, and before I could get that out, he turns, first he starts yelling and saying, you ain't going to come up in here cackling at me, telling me I can't wash my truck where I want. And then before I could say anything else, he took the hose and started squirting me in the face with the hose and amidst all this.
Yep.
So I start walking away and he's following me, keeping the hose.
I was wondering why you weren't getting mad about it. It was really ticking me off.
Raging.
Keep poking the bear.
She was just being quiet as I was like direct spraying her right in the face. And I'm like, why is she not running or like getting mad? So I just kept following her and direct spray in the face.
Nope. So people think that I'm disrespectful. I come up not yelling, not combative. I was not. And I get sprayed in the face with a hose. You talk about disrespect.
Well, I'm going to tell y'all something right now. If y'all are watching this, don't nobody tell me what to freaking do.
That's not true.
If I want to pull my daggone truck in the middle of Highway 27 down here and run a hose out there and wash it, don't nobody tell this joker what to do, son. So if look, when somebody comes up in my space and says, hey, you get that truck out of here. You know what I do? I say, no. You know what you can do if you want me to do something next time, boo-boo? You can come up and respectfully request that I move my truck to a different location. And if I'm in the mood to acquiesce your request, I will move my truck to a different location. If not, I'm going to do what the crap I want to do, man. Because look at this right here, son. That's what I do around here. I just keep it real. You know how it is. So you're lucky you didn't get what you were going to get.
I agree with you, too. We're cutting this off. This is past the 3 minutes. We got to get to the meat of the podcast.
I was getting way
your truck gets a little too passionate, huh?
Man.
This is terrible. All right, and Rob has a lot of good insight on young people, so don't get off track and start talking about your freaking Land Cruiser and none of your stuff.
You started it this way.
And lose track of time.
The people who are listening to this should have known right off the bat that this was going to go south, opening it up like this. I'm here to talk about Rob. Or Robbie.
Robert?
Yeah.
Just not Robbie.
Oh, well, look, I gave Robbie a little introduction here in the beginning, but Rob, what's up, man? Welcome to the 3 of 7 podcast.
Hey, I think we need to talk about idolatry, actually, and your favorite idol out there in the driveway.
You ain't lying, man. I got to check myself on that all the time, you know?
It's a bold move to turn the hose on your wife, though. You know, Abby, my wife, would have killed me. Mm-hmm. Like, it would not have gone well.
Thank you, Rob.
Like, I wouldn't be sitting here. So, that's bold. Real bold.
Fortune favors the bold, brother. Fortune favors the bold.
Yeah,
fortune might favor the dumb, but...
Got a lot of fortune that day, you idiot.
I got something for you.
Focus. Interview.
Robbie, where are you from, man?
Well, I grew up in Tifton, Georgia, which is...
Oh, dang, that's south.
Way south. And have been in Rome. I went to Berry College. Actually, my family's from here, so Rome's always felt like home. I was talking to my mom the other day, and she's from here, and talking about home. And I was like, Rome really has always been home, because that's the place that it's been, like, the constant in my life. And so I went to Berry College I graduated from Berry. I went for 2 years, my junior and senior year. Met my wife there, and then we were in Chattanooga for a few years, and then came back to work at the church here. It's the one place when I told Abby, hey, the job opened at Seven Hills. Would you be interested in moving back to Rome? She's like, that's the one place I would say yes to.
I'll be dang.
So
how did you and your family, how did y'all end up getting from Rome to Tifton when you were young?
Well, I didn't grow. I was born in Tifton.
You were born in Tifton.
Yeah. So my mom grew up here. My grandma is going to be 91 next month. Lives here and has been here for the last 65 years.
Yeah.
66 years. So a long time. And so my parents, my dad's job took him to Tifton, and then when my parents divorced, he's the one that actually left, and then we all stayed until. So when I was 20, my mom sold the house that I grew up in and moved to Atlanta for a job. Okay. But I'd already transferred to Barry at that point.
What was it like growing up in Tifton? Because what is down there? Cornfields?
No, it's cotton fields and peanut fields.
Cotton and peanuts. So what did you do when you grew up, man? Like, what did you enjoy doing?
Man, I used to hunt and fish a lot.
Come on,
and
dude.
then I grew up and didn't have time for all that anymore.
You used to hunt?
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay.
Back in the day. Back in the day.
Did you prefer fishing over hunting, or?
I like them both. If I had time, I would do such things now, but my lifestyle does not lean towards that in terms of flexibility with being able to go spend Saturday morning at a deer stand or, go spend hours out. Maybe when my son's a little bit older, we'll do some things like that. But right now, like my job takes so much of my normal time where because my job's not a 9 to 5. It's I think the last 2 days, I started my day yesterday at 6:30 in the morning and got done at 10 o'clock at night. And then this morning I was up leading a Bible study at 6:30 and I'll work till 5 tonight. But yeah,
what was your childhood like? Did you play sports?
My first love in life was baseball. So I loved baseball, was never really any good. And some of that is, a lot of it has to do with my dad not really showing interest in what I was interested in. And so he didn't take the time he would play catch with me sometimes in the yard. He would, but he didn't show a big investment in that. And so I didn't really have a lot of confidence in myself to go and try out for the team or to do. So kind of once my Little League days were over, it kind of went away because I didn't have the confidence to go and put myself out there or somebody behind me believing in me that, man, you can do this, you can try.
Yeah.
So played baseball. I played tuba in high school.
Dude, I played tuba all through middle school.
No, you didn't.
I swear. I was the star, and I was literally, you guys know me.
Of course you were the best.
I was the star tuba player. Like, they begged me to go play in high school, but I was really transitioned into a big turd through my high school years, so I didn't want to do anything extracurricular. But,
have you ever transitioned out of that, or?
I'm still in and out of that phase. Yeah, I'm in and out. I'm hoping by my 40s I'll be fully transformed out of the.
Hey, you're getting there quick.
Phase.
Getting there quick.
So played tuba all through high school. That's interesting.
Yeah, but
I didn't know we had that in common.
And then I had to work because my mom was a single mom from the time I was 11. My parents divorced when I was in 6th grade. Dad leaves. And so, there was a lot of responsibility that I had to, if I wanted to go do things, I had to make the money to go do it. And so, I say that, like, I never lacked anything. My mom did a great job. I look at her now and I'm like, how did you, like, I have an older brother, like, how did you pay for things? And because she didn't make much money, and I'm amazed the way she was able to provide for us and provide a stable home for us through all of that.
Did you grow up in a Christian home? Was faith part of your childhood?
Yeah, grew up in church. I didn't believe the same things I believe now. Scripture wasn't a high value. It was more cultural. You go to church on Sunday because that's what you're supposed to do. Mm-hmm. But my faith really didn't become my own. Really in high school is when that kind of took hold. I sowed my wild oats and quickly realized that wasn't leading to life. Mm-hmm. And it took a college kid who took interest in me as a sophomore in high school who saw all my crap and still pursued me and pursued a relationship with me. And that's how the Lord really entered in and called me to himself.
I didn't know that either. That explains.
I got a lot of tricks up my sleeve, Brooke.
How did at 11 years old, it's interesting, now you're working primarily with youth within the body of Christ. How did the divorce impact you as a child, and is that something that's kind of helped you now navigate what you're doing now?
Well, I think, and I'll talk about it in a sense for myself, but I think it's true for everybody. What it really did was it started questions coming up inside of me of like, I'll talk about, like, there was this whole kind of in my heart, like the things that I thought were sure, like I never thought my parents were going to get divorced. I thought we had this great family. My parents never fought in front of us, never, like, my brother and I were kind of blindsided by everything. And so it kind of was this crisis of identity of who am I? And like, what do I do to live? What is life? And so I started, those questions. I remember when I was in seventh grade, 12 years old, 13 years old. I don't remember. Math's hard. And so, I had these feelings, and I would dig places in my arm that I did. And it was not like an intentional, like, oh, I feel sad, so I'm going to like self-mutilate. But it was just like this like nervous tick of just like, I was just riddled with anxiety.
Man.
And didn't know what to do with all that. And then, I talk about sowing my wild oats in high school, I went to counseling, got the help I needed for the anxiety, that went away, but there was still this place in my heart that was like, man, something's missing. I don't really know what this is. And so I'm going to try and find love and acceptance in all these places. So whether that's, going to parties, whether that's girls, whether that's, friends, whatever, I'm trying to fill myself up so that I can feel fully alive. And I mean, it didn't work. So you get to the end of that road and it's like, daggum, here we are.
Yeah.
And that's where that relationship, with that college kid and him just, loving me where I was, he saw like all of my crap and didn't judge me for it. And, really, discipled me. And that's where like, I realized like, man, the life that I'm actually seeking it can only be found like fully in Christ. One of my favorite verses is John 10:10, which is the thief comes to steal, kill, and destroy, but I come that may have life and have life abundantly. And that like abundant life actually is found in Christ. And so, as I've grown and learned, I've gone through some different discipleship programs and all, and realizing that we all have these core desires inside of us, whether that's to be seen, to be known, to be heard, to be valued, to be respected, to be loved. Like we're all of us are looking out at the world and asking these questions. And what the enemy, who's the deceiver, tells us is he takes those desires and he twists them. And so he's trying to get you to seek things that are offering life, but can never come through on giving you life, the life that like Christ is actually promising you, which is abundant life. And in that there's hope, like everything's not right this side of eternity. Like sin is still impacting us. The fall is still here, but like in him, those deep core desires of my soul can be met and fulfilled. And one day in eternity, they will be fully realized in glory. And that's the hope that we have.
Yeah. I think you like, that is the one thing in me that you talked about, all those other desires that we have that can't be fulfilled by the material things of this world, which I believe is 100%. I agree with that. So as I've went through my life and achieved things that I thought were going to fulfill me, whether it's when I got my trident, when I graduated SEAL training, when we started a business and we made this certain amount of money, when we got to all these milestones, right? When you get the truck you want, when you get the bike you want, when you find the girlfriend that you want, all these big things. And it takes a while for a person to understand it don't freaking mean nothing, man. It's all empty. But the one thing I think that my faith in Christ provides that cannot be found, like unquestionably cannot be found anywhere else, is the hope aspect. Christ gives us hope, eternal hope. Not only hope in this life, but hope for eternity. And I'm like, I've been milling this in my head quite a bit here lately, because when we have conversations like this on YouTube, dude, I can talk about any subject. I can talk about politics. I can talk about moral issues. I can talk about any subject. And generally, the discourse is fairly civil. When we talk about faith, it gets ugly. It's weird. It strikes a nerve with people, man, like nothing else. It strikes a nerve. And I'm like, why are we not mature enough to have a conversation around faith? But we can have conversations around all these other things. It's a really strange thing. But I see the comments and I see the people who are just refuse to even hear or listen to or explore a conversation around faith. And I look at these people, and the number one question I have is, why do you even stay around this life? Where there is no other hope in life. It's like, how do you make it through life without the hope that we have here? Like, this is a genuine question for you if you don't believe in Christ. Like, life is, the majority of life is pain and suffering and toil and hard work, and like, what are you here for, man? Like, and so that's the thing that faith gives to me. It gives meaning to everything in life. It gives meaning to suffering. It gives meaning to toil. It gives meaning to enduring through sickness. It gives meaning to the hard things and the trials that we have, which is the majority of life, whether you want to believe it or not, or accept that or not. But it's like, how do you do it? People ask me all the time, like, why do you believe in Christ? Well, the technical answer is because Christ chose me and gave me the faith and the ability to be able to believe in him, and then I accepted him as my Lord and Savior, right? And he sustains my faith in him. But foundationally, I have to believe in Christ, because if I don't, I have nothing.
Yeah.
Everything is pointless. And then it's like, why would I even stay around at that point? You don't even, without faith, you don't even have a stance on moral issues. You have no stance on anything. Like, literally, there's nothing. And so hope is that one thing that I'm so thankful that Christ gives us, man. Out of the whole laundry list of things that we seek to fulfill us, the hope is the one thing that we can't find without him. I'm sorry, that's been on my mind a lot here lately. I just had to put that out there.
Yeah, we got a couple people. We just had a super chat, and it's Jax Teller. And
Thank you, Jax.
He said time management. And then he's starting to talk about the youth and parents and kids and raising kids, and like, you can tell people want to venture into like that.
Well, be patient,
subject.
People. Be patient. So this mentor that came into your life, at what age?
I would have been 14 or 15.
How did this guy approach you?
He just started showing up in my youth group and helping out and volunteering, and he would invite me over to his apartment, and we would hang out and watch movies and go fishing, and we just hung out, like shared life together. What
drew you to that relationship with him?
There's something about an older individual, like, investing in you. Like, when you're in high school, when the cool college kid comes in and it's like, I want to be friends with him because, like, he's not super old, but like, he's interested in me.
He's still relevant.
Yeah.
But I say that as like, the older I get, I'm 31. So 13, 14 years out of high school, and the kids that I work with now, like, there are things where it's like, I'm like significantly older than you. I work with some middle school students and I'm 20 years older than. That doesn't mean that I can't speak into their lives. That doesn't mean that I like have nothing to offer them, or that they're lost and I can't do anything for them, or I can't offer them hope. It just means that I probably need to be a little more strategic about how I approach them, because I don't have the gravitas of, like, I'm this cool college kid now.
Yeah.
Which I was never a cool college kid. So let's just be clear about that. I was a gooby college kid.
Weren't you large and in charge in college?
Yeah, Big Rob.
Big Rob.
So you have this mentor that comes into your life, which is, I think, for all of us that are willing to share our story honestly. I know for me personally, like, all of us at some point have a mentor that comes into our life and changes the trajectory of our life. And like for me, it was the first person to actually believe in me outside of my family members, and that was Frank Cutler. Frank Cutler was the first person that I looked up to, respected, and outside of my immediate family. And he just simply believed in me. And like that was enough. And I'm saying this because I think it's important for us to, once we get to the age that we are, to be that person intentionally for someone. Like keep your eye out.
Yeah.
And it's not complex. You don't have to be a psychiatrist. Just show interest in this younger individual and believe, and just be the person that believes in them, whatever it is that they're trying to achieve. That for me was a game changer, man. At what point did you say, okay, I'm going to fully turn my life over to Christ and I'm going to dedicate the rest of my professional life to serving within the body of Christ? Because that's a big step.
And it's a sacrifice because
it's a huge sacrifice.
In most work, I can't think of any work unless you work for some crooked mega church where you're going to get rich doing that.
Oh, I'm in it for the money.
Yeah, right. It's like you're choosing, because Rob, you're really good with people. You're highly motivated. You're super disciplined. Like, to be real, you could go out and make 6 figures easy with your personality and your drive. So it is a sacrifice for you to choose the route that you've chosen. I mean,
well, I mean, a lot of that for me though is calling. Like, I believe that God has wired me in such a way and given me certain gifts that this is the life that he's called me to. Unfortunately, and I don't want to bash my other brothers in ministry when I say this, a lot of people treat what I do as a stepping stone, as it's the entry level job to be a senior pastor or to move up in the ranks. And my heart is not that. Like, when I'm 65, I want to be doing exactly what I'm doing right now.
Oh, that's so
cool.
cool.
I have zero desire to do anything else. I mean, God can change my heart in that. I'm receptive to that. But, recently, even like the particular place that I'm at and being here in Rome, doing what I'm doing, I've had several friends that have changed jobs recently in ministry, going to different churches, moving different cities. And it kind of made me question, like, do I need to start looking? Am I doing something wrong because I'm like very happy where I am? Not comfortable in the sense of like, oh, I never want to do anything, or I'm not open to change, but not content, not complacent. Content's the word I'm looking for.
Yeah, you feel like you're operating within your purpose.
Yeah, and I feel like God has put me in this particular place at this particular time for a very particular purpose.
So when did you, going back to the question, when did you sense that calling and decide to do that?
So honestly, even before, I remember being a little kid sitting in church being like, I want to work here one day. Like, this is what I want to do. And that very just kind of knew this is what my life was going to be eventually. And just through, like different mentors, talking to different people, figuring out like what I am passionate about, and then in realizing like, not just that, like I'm good at something, but that I like feel passionately about it and like feel very strongly that God has called me to this. Like, this is the mission that I have been given. And so I don't remember a very particular moment where it's like, oh, like I'm choosing this. It just kind of always was. This is like, I feel like God has wired me that way, that like, this is what like I'm meant to do. And I've worked other jobs. I've done other things. And, Abby and I talk about like how like I come home sometimes, and all the other jobs I've worked, all the other things I've done, she said, you would come home miserable. Like, you hated your job. You hated what you were doing. There was no purpose to it for you. And now, and what I'm doing, she's like, I mean, she wishes I was home more because my like, weird hours, but she, she says like, I'm a different person because I'm doing what I'm made to do. And I just have, like, I can't point to a particular moment where it was like, oh, August 18th, I knew.
Yeah.
Like, but it's just kind of always there.
Now starting college and going through college, both at Berry and up in Chattanooga, has your focus always been youth? Has your desire always been to work with youth?
Yeah. So I didn't go to college in Chattanooga. I went to ABAC, which is an ag school in South Georgia.
What were you doing up in Chattanooga then?
That's where Abby's from.
Okay. All right. Sorry. I know there's a college up there.
Yeah. Covenant College is up there.
Covenant,
but we lived up on Lookout Mountain, but we were there for 4 years, just working. I was working for the church, just not doing youth ministry, just working, which was a great experience just to know kind of how a church works and the inner workings of things. But, I don't even remember what your question was.
I was asking, was it always your desire to work with youth?
Yeah. So in college, I volunteered with a ministry called Young Life, which is an outreach ministry to high school kids. I actually had the opportunity back in Tifton to work with middle school students and, did what's called Wildlife there, helped start a new ministry there. And then when I transferred to Berry, was able to start a new ministry at a high school here. Which a lot of the things that I'm passionate about and the way that we can engage and reach out to a younger generation actually is rooted in those formational years as I'm learning, like, hey, what does it look like to show up in somebody's life? What does it look like to pursue a younger kid and to offer hope? So a lot of like what I learned there kind of launched me into like, this really is what I'm passionate about. If you'd have asked me when I was in college, like I was going to go on staff with the Young Life, that's what I was going to do. And I had a mentor tell me, and I was really, really thankful that he did this. But he sat me down and he said, not yet. And I was like, this was my plan. I was going to do this. This is what I thought my life was for. And he said, not yet. And which led me to a little bit of a crisis of like, oh, well, what do I do now? Worked jobs and did different things. And through God's grace, he's writing a better story than anything I could have imagined for myself.
Why do you think that mentor said not yet?
I think he knew. I don't know. I think we need people in our lives that know us better than we do.
Okay.
And can see our skill sets, see our gifting, see the way that we the way we actually are.
Yeah.
And our faults.
And
how those are going to play into our decisions.
And to give us an honest assessment and
outside perspective. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm sure that's not an easy thing to tell somebody that like, hey, actually, I know you want to do this, but I don't think you need to do this yet.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm super thankful for that.
So you work these other jobs kind of in the meantime. When does the opportunity with the congregation here in Rome, Seven Hills, when does that pops up and you're living up in Chattanooga? How do you hear about that? What?
I was spending a lot of my time volunteering with our church's youth group, discipling. I led a discipleship group, and knew like.
And this is all you're just in your volunteer, your spare time. You're getting after it.
Right.
Yeah.
And knew that I started seminary right after I graduated college, wasn't ready for grad school, just burned out on school. And in God's providence, that's when Abby and I started dating, get married, moved to Chattanooga. So it all worked out great. And I'd started school back again, and knew that like, this is the direction that my life, like God was calling me to this, and had an opportunity at a different church in a different place. And neither Abby nor I like felt good about it. And the context around that is she's pregnant at this point, our family's growing. So the decision to move from right by her parents to anywhere was a big decision. And then, we ended up saying no to that opportunity. And then, I was just checking a job board and saw Seven Hills, and that's where we worshiped in college. And it's been a home spot for us for a long time.
Gotcha.
And so we, I remember calling her. I said, "Hey, honey, like, what do you think about moving back to Rome?" And that's when she said, like, that's the one place you could tell me right now that I would go. So applied and went through the interview process, and we moved with a 3-month-old, which I don't recommend, but it was also February of 2020 when we moved. So right before COVID and the world shut down.
Oh, lovely.
Well, this is kind of the point that I want to get into the meat of kind of giving some tactics to the listeners, and also giving some insight to me personally on a couple different topics. The mainly the challenges that you see youth in America today, the major challenges that they're faced with, and then how to navigate the presentation of the gospel to youth specifically. If there's any formula for that, it's like you're moving to Rome, Georgia. Mm-hmm. You're in this brand new community, and you're tasked with working with the youth here in Rome, mm-hmm. both inside and outside of the congregation, I assume. Mm-hmm. Nobody knows you. These kids don't know you. You're stepping into this place and you have no rapport with anyone. You have, you don't have a reputation around town. You're brand new to the...
Well, I did a little bit.
Even with the kids?
Yeah, well, parents in particular.
Okay.
So some of the parents and families remember me from when I was a young life leader here.
Okay.
So I still had some connections here. So it wasn't completely like moving to a completely blank slate new place.
Yep.
But there was, a lot of families that I didn't know.
So where do you start?
Where do I start? Like, how do I start building this ship?
Yeah.
It's all about relationships. And so, which I don't think people necessarily like to hear, but
I don't like to hear that.
Well, Chad, I'm going to challenge you a little bit here, buddy.
Yes.
I know you are. This whole conversation is going to challenge me because I traditionally don't like youth.
Look, Rob, that's why I've been like over here kind of like ready to move into this conversation, because I was afraid he would avoid it. Because I knew that it would be it's not a topic that he's super passionate about. Mm-hmm. So I was hoping that, but you did good, boo. You moved it along really well.
You. Yeah, you get props when you need them.
Sorry, she's just sidetracked you.
It's okay. So from the very foundation of the world, Genesis 1, when God creates man, he makes woman with him. So Genesis 2, we read that Adam goes through and names all the animals, and he says, but where's my helper? Like, where's my person? I'm alone. He's in complete and total communion with God perfectly. Sin hasn't entered the picture yet. And yet still looks around and says, but where's my mate? And so God, being gracious, makes woman to be a helper suitable for Adam so that he had a mate. And because in God's very own character, because what Genesis tells us is that we're created in the image of God. And, in the Trinity, you have God in perfect relationship with himself. So the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit are all one being, but in three persons. And so the three persons of God are all in perfect relationship with each other. And because we're created in that image, we too are created for relationships. So you start talking about, like, how do I start, building a ministry here, is that I've got to start building relationships. I can't go and just start, talking to people about Jesus if I don't know anything about their lives. I've got to take the time to get to know people, to invest in them, to show, I think there's a Truett Cathy quote, which I really don't like, but I can't get around this one. It's like, nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care. I talked about young life and serving as a leader. One of the things I learned there is that you've got to earn the right to be heard. And so I can't go and just, use my platform and just, talk, because that's going to fall on deaf ears. Mm-hmm. But if I've spent the time to invest in, to develop relationships, to show up to things that, let's be honest, it's weird if I go to a dance recital. It really is. I'm the weird 30-year-old dude sitting in the back because I've got 6 girls dancing in this thing, and it's something I just need to show up to. I don't necessarily love going to cross-country meets. I hate running. But yet that's important to them. That's a huge thing in their life.
These are the kids in your youth.
These are the kids in my youth group.
Yeah.
And so it's things like that where it's showing up and showing that, like, hey, I care about you enough to show up. And I care about you enough to talk to you like you're a person.
Yeah.
Because you are. I think that's where we go wrong a lot of times is we don't treat kids like they're people when they are. They have the same core desires that I mentioned earlier. Like, they want to be seen. They want to be known. They want to be heard. They want to be loved. They want to be valued.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of times older people don't know what to do with that. And so I mentioned to Brooke, we were talking at the gym earlier, and I brought up, like, if you were going to go and be a missionary in China, you wouldn't go in and just have like all your American preconceptions of what the world should be and try to like plop that down in China. It wouldn't work, right? You have to study the culture. You've got to know the people that you're working with.
Yeah.
You've got to invest in their lives. And then once I call it's relational capital. I've got to make deposits and make deposits and make deposits in that account. So that when it's time for me to make a withdrawal, there's capital there for me to withdraw from.
Mm-hmm.
So that I can either challenge you on something and have a hard conversation. I can call you into leadership or to something higher. Like, it's not just you need to do this, buck up. It's, you know how much I care about you. You know that I love you and that I want what's best for you and that I care about you and that I've shown up in your life and I've been consistent. And from that bank, I can then start to make withdrawals.
And you can start to talk about Jesus.
Yeah.
I mean, don't you think there has to be capital in that bank, like you said, for the trust to, I mean, you can't just go around preaching. I mean, that's, yeah.
Which there's a place in the kingdom for that. Like, I just don't know of many people that have been converted through street preaching on the street corner. And not saying it doesn't happen, the Holy Spirit doesn't move that way.
Yeah.
But I just really believe that it's like we in our core created for relationships.
You know, it's interesting to me that that last comment that you made. I don't know many people that have been or have accepted Christ because of a street preacher or something like that. And one thing that I love about 307 Project is it is in a sort of way a ministry. Mm-hmm. We don't put labels on it, but it functions that way in a lot of ways. And I have gotten over the years, I would say hundreds of messages and emails and communication from people that say, man, I gave my life to Christ because of, something you guys talked about or something like that. And the interesting thing about the podcast in particular, this is like episode 301 or 2, something like that. This has been a 4-year journey. And the reason that we are able to impact anyone is because we've stayed with it. And the people that tune into the show actually know us. Mm-hmm. Like, we have in a strange way, not on the depth you're talking about where I'm going to your football game or your cross country meet, but right. We have a relationship with our viewers. And that way we're able, we have mutual trust because we've shown up for 4+ years. They've done the same thing.
Right.
And we've built this kind of weird relationship. And I think that is just how what you're saying is in a way reflected in my experience. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, think about the podcast you listen to or the things you like, the media you consume regularly. Like, you feel like you have a relationship with that person. Mm-hmm. Like,
yeah. You
know, the ones that I listen to regularly, it's like, oh, my buddy's on again. I don't know this person.
Yep.
But like, I've got my buddy They're like, I'm going to listen to him because I'm like, he's an authority and like he's shown up.
Yes,
That's-
consistently.
That's the part that's the part, man, is when I personally think about the word relationship, it definitely turns me off. Because I tend to overcomplicate what that even means. Mm-hmm. And it's like the whole foundation of it is just showing up consistently. Mm-hmm. And that's why I think we have a good relationship with our listeners, because it's like we show up every Wednesday and we spend this time.
Well, and we're very unfiltered with our lives, and we're very, it's definitely one-sided. We don't personally invest in our listeners hardly at all, but we give up a lot of our lives to, for me, I think it helps make it more real for them.
But if you're inconsistent and you just show up when it works for you or when you feel like it, I would say that's detrimental.
Yeah.
To the formation of this relational aspect that is absolutely essential to have an impact, a positive impact on someone, right? Or to challenge them on something, or to call them to something higher, just like you were saying earlier.
Yeah.
Can I tell a story really quick?
Yeah.
I feel like you're irritated with me today.
Not at all, my beautiful biscuit. Your immaculate lover is so happy to be here.
You keep every time I talk, you like turn your eyes, cut your eyes. The other day, at the gym, me and Rob, we actually go work out every day. And so we talk a lot after the workout. And I was telling him, I work with a good many young people. And there's a couple of them that I've noticed over the years that I really have trouble motivating them to do simple tasks. And the other day, the simple task was really simple. And I had multiple solutions. I had multiple resources. And this individual kept saying, I'm just not comfortable. I'm just not comfortable with that. I'm sorry, I've never done it before. I'm just not comfortable. And I was telling Rob, and I was like pissed. I mean, I was mad, frustrated. Like, how these youth these days, they're incapable, and it's just a simple task, and she can't. And Rob gently kind of challenged me to what I heard from you was like, well, how much have you invested in her? Like your capital, have you built a relationship with her? And my response to you, I wanted to get defensive and be like, I don't have to. It's a professional relationship. She works for me. I shouldn't have to invest in her. Like, she should show up and want to work hard. End of story, period. And then you kind of elaborated a little further. And I was like, yeah, he's right. Like, when I was young and I was working for people, if they showed zero interest in me, naturally, I'm not going to want to work hard for them, especially in college or high school when you're not in a career. You're in a job that you know is temporary. And you know it's not like working super hard is not necessarily going to gain you a bunch of money down the road. It's just a means to an end. And so I went back to my job and I invested in this person. I went up while they were on the clock and was like, I actually took your advice. I was like, so how's school going? How long have you and your boyfriend been together? And I didn't go super into depth. I just kind of cut the surface of her life and what she struggles with and what's going well. And the last week and a half, she's been different. She's been different. Our communication is different. Her performance is different. And it literally was 15 minutes of my time. And I was so guarded with my time of what I told you, that high and mighty, she works for me. I'm paying her good money. I shouldn't have to get personal. But it's it helped. I benefited from it.
Yeah. And in that situation, I remember thinking this girl is scared of failing.
Yeah.
She's scared of doing this wrong, and she doesn't feel, I'm going to use counselly words, and I usually don't like counselly words, but sorry. She didn't feel safe. There needed to be some trust built for her to feel safe to try something she's not comfortable with, to feel safe to fail. and know that like my job's not in jeopardy because I messed something up.
Yeah.
Because we all screw things up at work. Like I said at the beginning, my life really is a comedy of errors. Like I mess all kinds of things up. But the thing I love like about where I work in particular is that I know that the two men that I work for love me and care about me. That I matter, that I'm valued, and they invest in me, which gives me the freedom to fail. Not to do things wrong intentionally, not to not do well. This isn't an excuse not to try, not to work hard. But the best way to learn is through failure. Like I had a professor one time say that we need to learn to fail forward. That the only way to really learn is through trial and error. Throw things at the wall. What sticks?
Yeah, failure is a absolutely necessary ingredient for any sort of growth or learning or progress.
Right, and the things that make the good things in life really great is the adversity that we had to go through in order to get there.
Yeah.
You know, climbing up a mountain is really hard, but when you get to the view, when you've worked to get there, you like behold that view and it's beautiful and you love it because you worked for it. But if you just drive up the hill to go to the view, like, oh, it's pretty, but like there's not the capital spent. You didn't sweat equity into that. You didn't try anything. You just drove your car up there. And it's not as breathtaking because you didn't take the whole journey to get there. But in that situation, I really think like it's allowing somebody to trust you, to know that you care, but they're not just a tool or capital to be spent, but they're a person that matters. And just, you know, those little, just tiny investments in them, asking like, hey, how was your day today? How was school? Are things going well? Like, how's your relationship with your boyfriend? How's your girlfriend doing? Like, those are all really matter because it shows people like this person doesn't view me just as a worker, but they view me as a person. And that's, I think, what we're all looking for. They feel seen in the like smallest of ways. Mm-hmm. But even I think that's just a testimony of just like when you care about somebody, then they feel free to be a better person, to be a better worker. They feel comfortable to try and to fail.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the big one.
Yeah.
Now, I have to ask you on a personal note, because this, I understand the logic of this relational aspect with youth, but with all people in general and showing up. But does it ever, I'll speak for myself. I feel like if you decide to make this, you're making the upfront investment in this person. Mm-hmm. Does that ever leave you feeling empty because you're giving so much and you're making so many deposits and intentional investments into all of these other individuals? And how do you combat that?
So I'm a firm believer in a ministry of overflow. So I have to be rooted in who I am and in my identity, which means that I have to be abiding in Christ for my life to be overflowing with love and care for people. I can't in my own strength, if I'm not spending time with the Lord, if I'm not building my own tank up, filling my own tank up to then go pour out, like I've got nothing. So even Jesus, you look at his life and his ministry, he sought time to get away from the crowd, to get away and to be by himself with the Father. And like this rhythm of Sabbath, of rest is so important. Like we can't just spend our lives giving, because at the end of the day, we're left empty and broken and burn out and ready to quit. I think that can be taken too far to the sense of like self-care, and people, I think, use self-care as an excuse to be selfish.
Yeah. Probably me a lot of times.
Well, you're a big self-care guy. I know that about you.
I just call it hermetism.
But that we use excuses where I just got to care for myself, and we use that as an excuse to not do anything. It's laziness. Mm-hmm. So that's the extreme end of that. But I do think we have to take time and space and rhythms that are daily, weekly, monthly, yearly to pull away.
Well, what
to
does
be
that look
filled.
like for you?
I mean, I'm
in
not
real day to day.
I'm not absolutely great at it. I mean, there's different seasons of life where, you know, I used to wake up at 5 a.m. every morning and have a 2-hour quiet time, then go to work and but I've got a 3-year-old at home. I work a pretty demanding job. My schedule's full. I'm in school. Like, I don't have time to do a 2-hour quiet time and sleep and be a functioning human being
And work out.
Well, that's the most important thing in life, right? But honestly, that is the reason I work out so much is that I show up better in my day-to-day life when I've done something for me, where it might be a little selfish to my family sometimes, but like that's a time that I've guarded where it's like, all right, I'm going to go to the gym for an hour a day. I'm going to be there. And the thing that I love about that space is it's a place where I don't have to be on because part of my job is public facing. So not that I have to like cover up all my faults and you know, but I'm able to be kind of real in myself and because I do work with kids, there's a space where I can be a kid myself and joke around and not have to be the authority or be the adult in the room at all times. So that's one way that I give myself that space, but it's spending time daily in the Word because that's, I mean, the bread of life. It's right here.
I agree.
There's a meal that we're offered every day. That's the sustenance that we need. Like God's words is his love story to his people. And he has given us the gift of himself. And it's right here in this book. So that's a huge part of it. It's developing a prayer life. And you know, I respect people that take the time and, you know, have a prayer closet and like my prayers are usually while I'm driving down the road.
Yeah.
Because I got time to think and dwell. But I really think a lot of it in terms of caring for yourself is giving yourself the time to slow down, to pause, whether that's, hey, maybe I'm going to drive quietly instead of having my favorite podcast on. Maybe I'm going to turn the music off for a minute and just be. Because I think in our society, we're so bombarded with stuff all the time where it's, you know, you got to be listening to that. You got to be doing this. You got to be watching that. You got to it's just overwhelming how much we're demanded to consume, to be like knowledgeable or to be a part of things.
Because there's a bottomless pit of things to consume.
Oh, I can, you know, pull my phone out right now and there's a lifetime already worth of content that I could not get through all of it in the rest of my life.
I think this is a really good tip for the listeners. I actually applied this yesterday. I was out on a run and I had a podcast playing on the run. I get halfway through my run and I'm like, you know what? I need to turn this off and just utilize the rest of this time in silence. Mm-hmm. And it works, man. It works. You come out. I came out the other end of that run with a lot of clarity on things that I've been wanting to have clarity on. And I would not have came out of that run with that clarity if I would have left that podcast playing.
Yeah.
Really, really good thing to consider.
Well, and one of the things like talk about the word, and this is God's word, and he is living and active. Like this book is sharper than any two-edged sword.
Amen to that,
Like
brother.
it is words of life. And so, you know, a lot of people come like, I read it and it didn't do anything to me. Didn't do anything for me. But like, I guarantee you that God is showing up in those places. It might be a small, still whisper, and you just have to turn the noise down so that you can actually listen. Mm-hmm. But we're so bombarded, so much going on that I don't think we give ourselves the space to be quiet and to be still. And confession,
so important.
I am not great at this. Like this is something that I'm growing in, that I'm trying to develop disciplines and habits in my life where I create the space.
The beginning of this process is being conscious of it.
Right.
Like being conscious of it. Like,
I'm terrible at this too.
Yeah, you're right, Boo Boo. It's hard.
Yeah.
I would say I'm pretty decent at it.
You are.
As a hermit, you should be.
Yeah, I still have my 2-hour silence in the morning where I don't consume anything, you know? But on my run yesterday, it was just interesting that you said that, because I actually applied it yesterday on the run, and it provided a lot of clarity. So it was just a striking example. I want to get into the conversation because you are connected much more so than I am with younger people. And I want to get into the conversation around what are the major issues that you see that youth face today, and are there unique issues? There's got to be with technology. There's got to be unique issues.
And COVID.
Yeah, totally, man. I want to hear about those just from my own personal understanding when I'm around younger people, because you're connected with this, man.
Yeah, I think, man, there's a lot there, and it could be a 6-hour podcast about.
Yeah, I'm sure. That's why you should have your own podcast.
Well, nobody wants to hear my voice that long. The first, I would say, we do live in a hyper-connected world where kids are, I watched students this morning at 6:30 at Chick-fil-A, there for Bible study, on their phones, checking all their Snapchats.
That is so unhealthy for our brain.
Right. And to understand that, I said we need to treat kids like people because they are people.
Yeah.
But I think we need to treat kids like they're kids because they are kids. They're people, but they're not fully developed humans. Their brains are still developed. The male prefrontal cortex, which is where your decision-making faculties are, is not fully developed until you're at least 25.
You mean like 36?
Or 36 in some cases. I mean, I always knew he was a little slow, but so when I say all this, treat kids like they're people because they are people, but they're still kids, is that one of the big challenges that I see, and this is an overarching thing, is that we are rushing through childhood. We're expecting kids to perform I have students that talk about needing their resumes to be up to snuff so they can get into the right college. They've got to take 12 AP classes. They've got to do all these things.
What's this? What are age range?
I work with 6th grade to 12th grade.
Okay.
So that'd be 10 and 11 to 18.
Okay. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, it's okay. So they're in this life of, I've got to perform, I've got to do more, I've got to build my resume. Otherwise, my life is going to fall apart. And I'm like, as a 31-year-old looking back at my high school career who took 0 AP classes and didn't try that hard in school.
Right.
I've got a college degree. Yeah. I'm doing what I want to do. Like, maybe I don't make a ton of money, but I'm pretty satisfied with my life. I've got a family that I love and a wife that loves me. We have a house. My needs are met. And so there's this pressure, constant pressure to perform. And there's a pressure to do all things too, where it's I've got to be in this club and I've got to volunteer at this organization. I've got to do all these things. And then you layer on top of that, I think travel sports, and be careful not to bash them too much, but I think
we love bashing sports.
I'm a sports lover. You have your truck, the Idol. I have Georgia football, the Idol,
and the Braves.
Oh god,
those are my 2 favorite idols. But there's a lot that families in particular, so my boss BP, one of his monikers is that a lot of parenting is caught, not taught. So it's not the things that you're telling your kids. It's the things that you're showing your kids. And so by, spending the weekends traveling to go play soccer or baseball or basketball somewhere, and you're saying, well, church doesn't matter, but this does. We're going to choose this over this. You might explicitly say no, your faith matters, that you need to be in church. But what are you actually modeling? It's that soccer matters more. It's that baseball matters more, basketball matters more than any of that. Mm-hmm. But even in these travel organizations, the level of pressure to perform, to succeed, kids, even in sports, kids aren't allowed just to be kids and to play a game. and to enjoy it. We're professionalizing amateur sports into a point where it's like, I've got kids that are like, I don't even want to do this anymore. Like, it's not fun. It's a job.
We have a mutual friend whose daughter just started volleyball this year, and she was telling me some of the details about like how the coaches interact and the way that they speak to the kids. And this is like not a crazy traveling all-star team. This is like regular. And I was just like blown away. I was like, why? Why? Like, I understand like the pressure, some pressure is a good thing. That's why you put kids, right? Like, so they can learn, but like, they were just mean. I mean, like mean and hateful and putting the kids down and talking bad about them in front of their teammates and just like, what?
Yeah, I was talking to that girl last night about that.
Oh, really?
And it was like, it makes me sad.
Yeah.
It's like, this is something that should be fun and enjoyable.
Right.
But we've taken the play out of the things that should be play. Like, we all, like, part of being a human is being able to play. Like, we need to have things that are fun, that are just for the pure joy of doing those things.
So that's a great example of my childhood. And it's really interesting to think how this is something unique and how this is something that has changed over the last 2 decades for children. Because I felt no pressure in my childhood. I was not rushed. I was a kid, man. I rode skateboards around the neighborhood and bicycles and played stick wars in the woods and played baseball, but like there was never any talk of you gotta get really good at this so that you can one day get a scholarship or play in the MLB or whatever. Like, there was never, ever even a conversation about that. It was out there purely for the sake of learning teamwork, camaraderie, having fun, learning how to be a good competitor, those types of things, but not with the notion of we're doing this as a means to get you here. No, it was for the sake of the game and what the game produces and teaches you and helps you learn and helps you develop. So what do you think has created this rushing through childhood? This is it because comparison has become so much more prevalent through social media, or what's causing this?
That's a great question.
I think that's part of it. One of my favorite quotes, and I cannot remember who said it, is that comparison is the thief of joy.
Yeah.
But I think off the top of my head, so this is zero authority. This is just me pontificating.
That's what a podcast is all about.
Is that I think that a lot of it is the comparison game. And I think some of it is people, parents in particular, looking back on their own decisions and wishing they had done things differently. And so then you start to vicariously live through your own children. And that you're putting your hopes, dreams, and desires on top of their own. Instead of cultivating, like, I talked about my dad never really invested in me, like loving baseball. And like, he wanted me to do what he was interested in. And so I think there's this notion of like, you have to be like, if you're not doing it just for an advancement into a career or advancement to, you can get a college scholarship, or you got to make the high school team so that you're somebody. Like, there's just zero like joy in that.
Yeah. And
I think it is comparison. It's the like, everything has to have a purpose that is tangible or financial, of just like, if this, you can't do things just for fun.
I was actually talking about this with the team. We just ran an Alpine mission a couple of weeks ago, a team of adults, and every member of this team were highly successful, most of them multi-millionaire, multiple business owner type of people. And one of the conversations that we sat down and had, they were discussing how every step of their life, if there's ever any free time, they're always looking for the next thing that they can improve. How can they improve in good things, their marriage? How can they improve their children's lives? How can they improve their business? All this. And I spoke up and said something. And I said, you know, don't forget that you have to also have time to like play and rest. Like what we've forgotten that as a society, and you talk about the parents' impact on the children, and if the parents are in the mindset of these ultra successful people that I get to work with through these missions of like every moment has to be filled with something that's purposeful. Well, we look out in nature. You look. I made a comment the other day on a YouTube video. I said I can learn more from watching an animal than watching an unregenerate human being. I can learn more about how to live a happy life through watching an animal than I can learn about living a happy life through human philosophy. Mm-hmm. That's interesting because if you watch an animal, when their needs are met and they have this time, usually it's in the middle of the day, what do? They rest, they recuperate, they play, they enjoy that time. Instead of saying, no, I got to go hoard up a few more acorns. You know, it's like they know when it's time to work, they work. Mm-hmm. They recognize their needs, but when their needs are met, they make place for play and for rest and recuperation and restoration. We've lost that, man.
Oh, big time.
But to me, that's where your be hard when it gets hard kind of came from.
Yeah.
Was you were saying that.
Mm-hmm.
But
I wanted to hit one more thing on the
ahead.
Comparison end, Boo Boo, before you move on.
I wasn't moving on. But
Okay, my bad. And the comparison thing too, and how that plays into feeling like these students feel, or these, I say students, these younger people feel like they have to be involved. They have to hit all these certain wickets, right? Because they can now compare themselves to an infinite number of people. When we grew up, you could, if you compared yourself to anyone, it was like the 5 kids in your neighborhood.
Right.
Like what was old Joey down the street? How was he doing in baseball? Like,
right.
And if you were doing better than him,
It's like,
man,
at least I'm better than him.
you were good. But now they have access to comparing themselves to an infinite amount of people who are projecting a false image as it is.
Well, I think you see
That's
that
detrimental.
Body image issues are a huge deal. And I think you talk about social media being, I think that's been such a detriment to not just girls, but boys too, as they look on Instagram and they see, the sculpted, edited, smoothed out skin, the rippling muscles,
Guys that look like me.
Yeah, well, you're a bodybuilder over there. They see that and they think, to be loved, to be accepted, to be worth anything, I have to look like that, and I don't look like that. So there must be something wrong with me. Mm-hmm. And it's super toxic. And I think it's the natural way we look at things is we look, instead of being complacent or content. I keep on saying complacent, and I don't mean that. Content with the deck we've been dealt. Like we are always like looking at like, oh, I want to look like that. And I do this. I see guys on Instagram that can do things I can't do, that look a way that I wish I looked. And like, man, if I could just work that much harder, if I could just do that much more, if I just put that much more time at the gym, then I can look like that too. When the reality is the hand they've been dealt is they might be just genetic beast and I can't do anything about that. Mm-hmm. Like I'm not. B, that's probably been edited and filtered and made to look a certain way to portray a certain image.
Or it's a lifetime of work. It's what they've dedicated their lives to, and your life hasn't been that.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with that.
No.
No.
I mean, but I think that's a very toxic thing to get into, to use more counseling words that I hate. But that mindset though, and then you start to spiral, and you lose sight of who you are, of where your value actually comes from, and you start to look out and to say, I don't measure up.
Man, then you're just drifting.
Yep.
Then you're just drifting, son.
Well, there's a natural, like, I know my experience, and I love what you guys said. I've never thought about the comparison, specifically with social media, that I mean, what you said was that was what I thought as soon as you started with your thought, was like, who did I compare myself to? And it was the small group of kids, like within my school and in my neighborhood.
Yeah.
And I could compare in like magazines and stuff, but I didn't have a magazine that had 1,000 women that I could look at in 30 seconds.
Yeah.
You know, all in a category. But girls and boys, naturally, at the ages you're working with, like you said, those core needs to fit in and belong. And then the body dysmorphia is just a thing everybody goes through. Like, I went through it in middle school really bad. And
I wouldn't say everybody. I don't think I went through it.
I can't imagine. Yeah,
There's always an outlier.
Oh my gosh. I can't imagine looking at some of the chicks that are on Instagram, like you're saying right now. But what does that do? Like, how does that change them in like the ways that like makes their culture different than like our generation?
Well, I think the big difference is, you've already said it, is that it's right there at your fingertips at all times. I can pull my phone up right now and, scroll. And, the most beautiful people in the world are right there.
Do you think they're less confident as a whole, as a culture?
Yes, absolutely.
I see that. Totally.
How?
But then you layer that on top of this success idea, and that I've got to have the resume. And now you've got a 1-2 punch of, I'm not enough. I don't measure up. And it just, I mean, that cycle is just perpetuating. When to bring faith back into this, like, what is the gospel says that God rejoices over you. Like, when you are brought into his kingdom, he looks at you and says that you are beautiful and you are loved and you are valued. He values you so much that, like, he took on the payment for your sin. So the wages of sin is death. Like, in his perfect character, like, he is perfectly just, poured out justice on himself to be with his people, because he so loves us. Not the sculpted, Instagram filtered, resume built, any of that. Like, he doesn't care. He cares about you.
Yeah.
And that's the identity he's given you. Like, if you put your faith in Jesus, all of a sudden, your identity is no longer in the things of this world. It is no longer in what everybody else says matters. The only thing that matters is what your creator says about you. He's dad. He has the final say. And he says that you are beloved. And it's with all the muck, all the sin, all the dirt, all the shame, all of it. He looks at you and doesn't see that. Because in Jesus, you get Christ's righteousness, his beauty cloaked over you, where you get to not be seen as dirty and sinful and shameful and not good enough anymore.
Yeah.
But he looks at you and says, you are enough. And I desire you. Not what you do, not what you bring to the table, but you.
That's the whole concept of dying a second death. It's interesting when Jesus brought that out, and he in scripture, when you read and Jesus is talking about you have to die to be alive, it confused everyone. What a radical principle. What a radical thought. Is like, when you accept Christ, you literally, the old
Has
you
passed away, in the new
literally dies, and you arise as a new creation in victory. Yeah, man, it's such a radical thing that I don't know that any human could have. There are so many radical things in the Bible that I'm like, if this was compiled by a human being, nobody would write that.
It makes zero sense.
Nobody would come up with that, man. And the people that Jesus is telling this to, they think he's insane because it's so far outside the boundaries of what the human mind can even comprehend. Like, no, you're literally going to die, right? To yourself.
Well, and even the things, Matthew chapter 5 is the Sermon on the Mount, and the things that Jesus brings up there is he says, "Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth." Like, things like that, where there's this upside down reverse economy in God's kingdom where the weak are the ones who are made strong.
Yep.
But in like Jesus's own life is marked by that because he is God in the flesh, Emmanuel, God with us. And so Philippians chapter 2, there's this hymn that Paul writes where he talks about that Jesus, being in the very nature God, did not count equality with God something to be grasped, but he humbled himself to the point of death, even death on a cross, so that at the name of Jesus, every knee shall bow and every tongue confess. And I'm mixing up all the words now because I'm going off the top of my head.
Yeah, I know the verses you're talking about. Yeah.
But like the point being that like Jesus had full authority. He had all the strength of God. He had the power of God in him.
He's literally holding everything that is together.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And yet does not use, like, he comes and it doesn't like use his power. I told kids this morning, we were talking about selflessness and serving others and what are opportunities to be selfless in your life, in your own, as you're walking through the halls of your school or you're fighting with your brother or your sister. Like what are some opportunities to be selfless? And I was just confess, like, if I was Jesus, if I had that kind of power, I'd be the one that's like miracle here, miracle there. Oh, look at me. I'm flashy. I'm awesome. And that's not what he did. Like he comes with all the power and might of God and lays his life down. And that's just so radically different than what we would expect.
Oh, yeah.
Radically different than what I would do.
I've never thought about that.
Well, everything. I would say dang near everything about the gospel and about what scripture tells us about ourselves is what's the word? Antithesis of the way the human mind would think it logically. It's unbelievable, but it works. It works. That's the thing. So with going back to what you were saying about younger people these days feeling like they have to be rushed through this childhood, have to hit all these wickets, and then even bringing in the part of the conversation around youth wielding technology, and you saying this morning they're waking up at 6:30 in the morning and they're checking their Snapchat at 6:30 in the morning. I mean, I don't look at my phone that early because I know how detrimental that is. It's like, how do you, or do you even challenge them on these things? Like,
my kids laugh at me. I will tell them, like, hey, we're not doing that here. Like, get off your phone. We're not doing that. If they're really bad about it, if we're like sharing a meal together and they're on their phone, I will put my phone in the middle of the table and say, you're all putting them on there.
Okay.
Like, we're not doing that. And it's just, highlighting, hey, I noticed you're on your phone a lot this morning. You okay? I'm just kind of highlighting because we have been so conditioned to be addicted to these things that the first thing you do in the morning is you got to pick your phone up. And then you gotta make sure that your Snapchat score is, I don't have Snapchat, so I don't know anything about this, but like you gotta make sure your score keeps going and your streaks are there. And then there's a feedback loop, like on Instagram, for example, of if I posted something good, then I get a bunch of likes. And if I didn't, I don't get likes. So then there's a feedback loop, either positive or negative, of am I valuable? So there's a ton there that I just try to highlight, like, hey, just notice this. Are you like, do you see yourself doing this? And just kind of curiosity. I think that's, you talk about, to bring things back to like building relationships. A lot of the ways that I try to spend relational capital when I make those withdrawals is really just being curious. It's asking a question and letting them talk.
That's smart, man.
Just to be like, yeah, I noticed this about you. Are you, what's going on? But the other thing that comes to mind talking about technology is, I think in our culture right now, sexuality is such a big deal. And sexual freedom being a high value, and that you can love who you want to love, you can be who you want to be. I think one of the things that comes into my mind about technology in particular is that I don't know that we're having direct enough conversations about sexuality in general.
Like healthy sexuality,
Sexuality, biblical sexuality, but even, pornography is a huge issue. And there is, from my parents' generation, your parents' generation, to us and to this generation currently, there has been a huge, in the technology boom. The technology has changed over the last 10, 15 years at light speeds from what I had. So just in sexuality, like porn, for example, which is a terrible thing. And
well, Joe Rogan says it's good for some people.
Well, I would disagree with Joe.
Yeah. Don't digress.
And I would go to bat on that one.
Yeah.
But if my parents' generation, your parents, like they had to go find a dirty magazine somewhere.
Or a DVD. VHS.
Our parents had to go find a magazine.
Oh, yeah, right.
And then, we grew up in the internet era but there was like the home computer, if there was a computer in your home and it was in the living room, and that's really weird. To now we've given the internet into kids' pockets. And I don't think, because technology has changed so much, I don't think parents in particular know how to appropriately manage those things and to set appropriate boundaries to teach a kid how to use it. And there are principles in my own life that like my phone doesn't go to bed with me. Like there's a spot in our house where like our phones go to bed. They don't go back to our bedroom.
That's a good word, man.
Like I've got, on my own phone, there's software on my phone that's keeping track of me. My computer, everything is monitored. Not that I'm like looking for things, but just as like, hey, I need to have people in my life that have the permission to ask and that I'm not alone. But when we just hand a phone to a kid or hand a computer or an iPad or whatever to a kid, it's like, all right, have fun. And we don't put boundaries on that. Like it runs rampant. And I think a lot of the cultural issues we have right now are that people are able to find pleasure and a sense of relationship outside of the way that God has intended for that to be. So I can go and start to, Google whatever I want, and there it is, as dark and evil as I want it to be.
Yeah.
I can find it. But the way that God has designed sexuality is that it's meant to be within the marriage relationship between a man and a woman. And like, that's the way that he's designed it to work. Because whenever we can just click on whatever, and this conversation kind of applies to all things, is that it starts to dehumanize people.
Yep.
It makes people a little slave to me, that I can get whatever I want, whenever I want it, however I want it, right now. And so it dehumanizes people. And so a lot of the relationship problems that we see right now, I think, stem from this idea and this toxic thing that's come in, that's like, you can just have whatever you want whenever you want it, which is not at all the way God designed it.
Yep. Yeah, and the dehumanization part, it's like you can have whatever you want, and even in terms of like communication, it's like you can communicate whenever you want. There's this constant like line of communication that's open.
Everyday friends is out there.
Yeah, and it doesn't require actual face-to-face, person-to-person, literal conversation, like looking at each other, and that is, I think that's what the dehumanization part is. We can begin to view, believe it or not, I truly believe we can, if you get too deep into this, you can begin to view people that you're having conversations with as a text screen and a name on a screen, and not a real human being. It's like, that's deep, man.
Yeah.
The dehumanization that can manifest in a human being's mind.
Well, you will type something to somebody that you would never say to their face.
So I think about I think about this all the time. It's absolutely insane on social media and on YouTube, the comments that people will leave. And I think all the time in my own, the old Chad comes through sometimes, and I don't really like that Chad, but he thinks, find me. I'm not that hard to find. Find me and say that to me. Mm-hmm. Just do it. Let's see how that goes for you. You won't do it.
Right.
Like, it's crazy, man. But that's something deep to think about, man. The dehumanization that technology can actually manifest in a human's mind. And that is not good, man. Because when you begin to dehumanize other people, boy, that opens the door to all kinds of wickedness and violence and things that you can do to other people because you don't really even see them as what they are, right?
Yeah.
That's crazy, dude.
If you guys don't care, I really want to go back to the sexuality conversation. Like,
why not?
Like, I feel like there's so much there.
What do you specifically got on that, boo-boo?
I was just thinking about when I was young, minus all of the crazy social media, and I had access. Like, I could find porn, like you said. Like, by the time I was in high school, some of us had a laptop, and like you said, there was a desktop computer. But the transgender, that whole movement wasn't so front and center and celebrated. And I was a really hardcore tomboy. And I just had a lot of factors that I think, like, all of those things plus wanting to fit in, and then seeing my peers being celebrated and kind of put up on a pedestal and treated a little different because they are going through a transition or they've decided they're a different gender, or like, I couldn't imagine navigating that. So it's like, how do we as adults with kids in our lives, our kids, our nieces, our nephews, our youth group, our whoever, like, how do we speak into what's happening with sexuality in our culture as Christians without telling them, you are not allowed to associate with that person. You should stay away from them. They're evil. They're terrible. Like, because that's not a Christian thing either. But when our nieces get older, I don't know how I would have that conversation with them about, like, if they come home and start talking about one of their friends in middle school or high school, she actually wants to be a boy. So, and like, they love that person. That's one of their close friends. Like, how do you go about that conversation? And like,
I don't have a good answer for that one. So transgenderism in particular is a really new phenomena that our culture is experiencing, that it's been, like a match in gasoline, just
huge. Yeah.
And it's loud and it's in your face. But I think there are some principles and a couple of things that we can kind of glean that I think can help us address that. And first of all is that they're still people. Like, they are still made in the image of God.
That's a good starting point for everything. Let's remember that.
And therefore, like, love, gentleness, and respect.
And a lot of them are kids.
Right.
They're kids.
Right. And that that's a whole different issue that I don't want to get into, just because I would get pretty angry. But I think we live in a world that is full of different narratives. So there's stories that are being written all around us that are offering life. And so the way I think about these things is, we tease this out and you go to the end of the story. Where are you? I know of several people, I don't know them personally, but there's stories of, I thought I was going to find life here. I transitioned. I did it, got super depressed, regret doing all of it. And now I've made some life-changing decisions that I can't go back on. And I super regret that. But even in that, like outside of the transgenderism issue, I think that we have to tell a better story. Like the story that God is writing, if I could enunciate, is so much better than anything we can ever imagine. So whether that's, I'm going to go sleep with a bunch of girls and live it up and party it up, when I get to the end of that and I'm empty, life's not there. Or I'm going to go and make $1 billion. And then once I get the billion, I've got to worry about my second billion. And then I've got to make my third billion. And it's just this chasing but you're never like satisfied with that. There's no satisfaction. Your soul is not getting what it needs there. It might feel good in the moment. But what I think a lot of what's going on right now is that the story that's being offered is you don't feel comfortable in your own skin. I didn't feel comfortable in my own skin in middle school. Nobody does.
Except for Chad.
Well, the outliers everywhere.
Yeah.
But what's being offered though is like, oh, you don't feel comfortable in your skin. You must be this. Whether that's, you must be an athlete, whether that's you must be transgender, you must be homosexual, you must be a party girl. I don't like whatever label you want to be on it. It's like, you don't feel comfortable. So let's put a hat on and see if that feels good.
Instead of just moving through the uncomfortable parts of being a middle schooler.
Well, and this isn't just for middle schoolers. I'm just using that as an example of nobody's thriving in middle school. If you peaked in middle school, I'm sorry. Like life hasn't been good to you. But what I am saying is that we're all going through this. We're living in this world of narratives and these stories that are being written around us. And I think what we need to do as believers is that we've got to tell the better story, because our story is the one that's true. Our story is the one where life is found. And that's what we have to offer, is the hope that, life is going to be hard. It's going to be uncomfortable. Jesus promises us, if we follow him, we will be persecuted. You will suffer because of him. But the story that's being written is so much greater and good and grander than anything that we can ever imagine. That in eternity, when Jesus comes back and all the ills of the world, when sin is washed away, where there's no more sickness, no more death, no more tears, like everything is as it should be. That's where life is. And that's the story that we're being invited into. And that's where life is actually found.
Have you found a way to get these, just as an example, because we keep talking about it, like these middle schoolers, high schoolers that are in the thick of these hard things that we're talking about, have you found a way to get them to grab onto the idea that you just told us? Like, or is it?
I mean, yes and no. So I think one of the things in dealing with kids is that I think of it like you're a gardener. Like sometimes you're tilling soil and you're just tilling soil and you're tilling soil. You might not get to plant the seeds. Somebody else might plant a seed. Maybe there's never a seed planted. But as Christians, we aren't the ones that save people. The Holy Spirit is the one that saves people. We are supposed to be faithful in showing up to do our job. And there's seasons where you're just tilling soil and tilling soil and tilling soil. And there's seasons where you might be planting seeds and planting seeds and planting seeds, but you might not be the one to reap that harvest. But it's just knowing that God's story is bigger and better than you. And that in his faithfulness, his timing, trusting, praying, knowing that like he is good and does come through on his promises. That if we are just planting seeds, that maybe one day that seed will sprout and there will be a tree or an ear of corn that grows.
Well,
you can pick.
What a clear answer to the question that I was going to ask. Just here in a few minutes was, how do we present this, or how do we present a gospel message to youth? And the challenge that I see about presenting the gospel message to younger people versus adults is it's when you're young, it's difficult to come to the realization that you really need Christ. Because most of the time, I know when I was young, there wasn't like for me personally, there wasn't a moment where it was like, holy crap, I'm at the bottom of the barrel here and things that are not working out. And I have got to I've got to search. I need something to save me from myself because I can't save myself. And as a kid, you may even be in that place, but you are not intellectually sometimes capable of acknowledging that that's the place that you're in. Maybe you just think things are going to get better or whatever. But, when you approach an adult that has lived a lot of life and is been through a lot of hard stuff, I think an adult realizes how feeble they over time they can realize how feeble they actually are, and that they need something. But the answer that you gave in really highlighting, you call it the God's story, right? But really highlighting the life that is available to you in Christ versus, or in comparison to, the other option. Really highlighting that and honing in on that. And see, nobody ever told me that I can remember. The gospel was presented to me as I remember, in as a youth, as the traditional gospel. You're a sinner. You can't save yourself. You need forgiveness. Accept Jesus, which that is all true. That's the foundation. But giving context of like, what is this? What is it? Like, I'm just a kid. I'm not a sinner. Like, give me some context on what that means. Give me some context on where that's going to lead. Give me some context on what's going to happen if I don't consider this. Like, what are my options? Like, how does this play out? Right. And that's more complex than just, I mean, I hate to sound like I'm advocating for not just a pure and simple presentation of the gospel, but maybe a child or a young person, give them a little context in what you're talking about here. Does that even make sense?
I mean, I guess, like, I don't know how to respond directly to that question, but I think, like, as you were talking, what I was thinking is that the gospel is that, but it's so much more than that.
Yes.
Like, and so, if I'm discipling a kid, it's just being curious. Like, I don't go to a kid and talk about sin and be like, you're a sinner and you suck. You need to do better. Because that's not the gospel.
Yeah.
Like,
that's definitely not the gospel. You're right.
Like, that's legalism.
Yeah.
And that's not at all what my heart for kids is. Like, do I want you to make better choices? Yes. Like, do I want you to thrive and to live a full life? Yes. But what I really desire for you is to fall in love with Jesus and to find your identity in your life fully rooted in him. Because that's the only place where your soul is going to find the satisfaction that it needs. Because that is what you're created for. And so you talk about adults or really everybody. I'm changing gears. Sorry.
No, I think you're exactly right. As I think through this more in my head, like, this is all just new things that I'm thinking about. I think it also applies to adults.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I say something really quick?
Yeah.
You just did.
You guys are mean. I feel out of the loop. When you guys are both discussing that, the difference, I was thinking about how different life is as an adult versus a kid, and like what things were important to me in middle school and high school, and how little my world was. Like, there were probably 6 or 7 different things, which it may be different now because they are, there's a lot more in their world.
But it's still true.
Yeah, it was like my boyfriend, my friend group. School was like a little thing on the back burner. It was like my outfits, my dog, my family. There were just these little things, maybe a sport, but my world stayed in those things, and there really wasn't a need for a savior, if that makes any sense. Like, my mind wasn't big enough to I don't know.
You're getting at the root of like a challenging part. I see. You're just what I was talking about.
Is that kind of?
Yeah, you're getting at the root of like the challenging part of talking to younger people about Jesus, because as an adult, I deeply understand.
Well, because you felt the need.
My need for
Yes.
Christ. I deeply understand that. And I literally value my faith above any other gift I've ever received. Like, it's not no comparison. Like, I would burn everything to the ground to save my faith if that were possible. All my faith is being supplied to me by Christ. I believe, in that, but you're definitely getting at the root of a challenging part. I can deeply understand that, but as a younger person, I couldn't understand that need.
Or have the need
Personally.
at all. Like,
Personally. But I guess everybody's different.
Yeah, everybody is different, and I think you would be shocked to know that kids do have needs. Like, they feel those needs. They might not realize that their needs aren't necessarily being met by what they're chasing, but they do have need. That need is still there.
Well, Blake tells his testimony as a child. He felt his need for Christ as a child through the anxiety he was experiencing. So that makes, there's an example.
And so my argument to you there is that, like, you're not the one who is going to convict somebody's heart.
Yeah, you're right.
You're not the one who's going to shine the light on somebody's sin. You're not the one who's going to save somebody.
You're right.
So what I do, like when I talk about tilling soil and planting seeds, it's just I'm going to continue to tell the story. I'm going to continue to tell the story.
of the gospel?
Of the gospel. Yeah, absolutely.
Love that, man.
Every time I'm with kids, especially in formal settings, as I'm teaching, I'm going to talk about the gospel.
Do you talk about it, the actual story itself? Is it way different if you're like speaking at church to the congregation versus in your youth group with middle schoolers? Like, do you articulate it differently?
So you're talking about contextualization. So
That's right.
I've got to bring.
I knew that.
I've got to bring the gospel to make it real into a kid's life. What does this mean for me? Is the question.
Yes.
There's in a youth group. There's a youth group talk kind of format. You can go, what, so what, now what? Like, why does this matter to you? And something I do with kids to try to get them to kind of grasp their own faith, because like being in the South, I feel like we still live in a pretty church society, and kids might know the answers, might know the Sunday school answer to things, but even less and less so than I think when we were growing up.
Oh yeah.
But what I find is that kids are still grasping on to I'm a Christian because my parents are Christian.
Yeah.
Which isn't a bad thing. Like, not everybody's going to have a radical conversion moment. The majority of people don't. The majority of people grew up in a faithful home, and there's not like I don't have a story where there was one day where it's like, oh, I'm a Christian now. Yeah. It just kind of all through God's timing and His providence came together, and it's like, oh yeah, I do believe this.
Yep.
I wasn't strung out on the side of the road and had this miraculous conversion. I was a kid. Yep. And there's a story. So what I have kids do though is I start to ask the question of, when did you realize your need for Jesus? How did he meet you in that need? And then what has he been up to lately?
That's a deep question for a kid.
It makes them squirm.
Does it really?
And I love it because I ask them to share their stories, to share their testimonies, because it's important. And I very clearly tell them, I say, I don't care when you were born. I don't care what town you grew up in. I don't care what middle school you go to. Like, none of that really matters. I want to know these 3 questions. And I think by doing that, it's kind of to start to like, do I have a need?
Starting to work that out. Yep.
What is my need? Has Jesus met me in that need? Do I really believe this? Or am I just doing this because my parents make me? To try to take their faith of their parents and then bring it to their own.
Yep.
And
that's wonderful, man. That's wonderful.
I can't say enough about parents, though, that are faithful followers of Christ, who disciple their kids, who are showing them like, hey, here's what it looks like to be a mature follower of Christ. And we're going to model this in our home, and we're going to talk about it. And it's an emphasis in our home.
Mm-hmm.
You can see the fruits of that in what you do. Like,
there's a youth ministry moniker that parents are the primary disciplers of their children. And to an extent, I agree with that, and to an extent, I don't. But I like the things that are going on at home. If you are a believer and you're raising kids, that's where the money is. This is where we can talk about real things. This is where we can dig into life together. This is where I can model that, what does it look like to have a quiet time? What does it look like to spend time in the Word? What does it look like to have a prayer life? Mm. And I can teach you, to show you the way of how to be a mature follower of Christ. Knowing that you're a kid, you're going to mess up. I'm 31. I mess up. Like, I'm not great at this. I'm not perfect. But it's that modeling and at home, having the conversations. And I think that, having the conversations cracks the can on really everything we've talked about is, sexuality, performance, athletics, play, like all of these things. It's like, as a parent, to know your kids, to talk to your kids, to treat them with the dignity of an image bearer, and to know that like your voice matters in their life, and you have a very special and particular role to play, and that God has called you to this moment and equipped you for this moment, and that He has people around you to support you and to help you talk through things, and like you're not alone, but you're the one that's the primary voice in their life. And that's a great privilege and a great burden.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, that's powerful, man. I think it's just something that a lot of people probably need to hear. That's powerful. What do you think about that, Boo Boo?
I think we don't have kids, and that idea of that kind of being on us if we did have a kid is terrifying. Like, the burden of getting that right.
But so my favorite parenting moniker, or the research shows, is that parents that crush it 30% of the time are the ones that are absolutely doing the best.
Wait, what?
You have to get it right 30% of the time to be an absolute amazing parent. 30%.
Huh. That's doable.
Which in baseball terms means you need to bat 300.
I don't know what that means.
30% of the time you're getting a hit.
Okay.
And I think and to use baseball as an analogy here, I think we need to focus on hitting singles and doubles more than we need to try to crush it out of the park all the time.
You know what, when you said that, what thought popped in my head that I didn't say earlier, that I think is something that spoke to me, is what you said about tilling and the garden, and like how if we choose to pour into our youth, or to just ask questions and be curious and get to know, like me with my employees. It's like, if I try to help pour into these individuals who are going to be with me temporarily, I most likely will not see fruit from that. But like, that's, who cares? And like, I selfishly do want to see fruit from it. You know what I mean? Like, I want to know if I help, but like, that's just like a part of it that is a good reminder for me that like, it's like putting your grocery cart away, like Chad said, when nobody's looking. It's like, it is just the right thing to do. It just is.
Well, and I think when you take the long-term view, so something else that I think is important is let's not look to win battles. Let's look to win wars. And so, winning the argument isn't always the best thing, even if you are right. But loving and caring for somebody is going to win the war. To know when to step back and to not push the issue. That's the long term, playing the long game of I'm just tilling soil or I'm sowing seeds.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I don't, and to trust in God's faithfulness that he's going to bring a harvest.
Yeah. And I want to say too, and I know me and Rob both have engagements, so we'll have to wrap it up pretty soon.
Yeah, that's fine.
But
this has been a powerful conversation. I don't want to get sidetracked on fitness or anything like that. This is enough, I think, for the listeners to chew on for a while.
yeah, I wanted to say that we still got like 15 minutes. We got more than 15 minutes. But just to say, like, when you guys were talking about, and I knew this was going to happen, but I just wanted to speak about both of your personalities. When you guys were mentioning sports and how it becomes like a thing where there's so much on kids to perform and it's not about fun, there was quite a few people who got a little frazzled, and they were saying, well, and a lot of them were very respectful. Hey, well, it's also very important to push our children. And I'm like, I have Rob over here who doesn't miss a day at CrossFit. And like, I mean, you both of you guys are highly disciplined. You both put yourself through extreme suffering to become the people you want to be every day. Like, I know both of y'all are going to challenge people no matter what. It's like, y'all aren't saying, let's just be soft on all the kids. And like, because some of this could come across that way if you don't understand who both of y'all are.
Yeah. For me, using the example of sports just as a singular example, it's about pushing them in the right areas. Like, push them to become a better teammate.
Right.
Push them to become a better competitor, or what the aspects of themselves that they need to develop. It's not pushing them to hit this certain performance standard so that they can achieve some societal goal. It's pushing them in the developmental aspects. Mm-hmm. That's where that's what I would lean most into.
Yeah. Well, I totally agree. Like, I'm not advocating for being soft on kids. I think we need to challenge kids. Mm-hmm. The higher the bar you set, the higher they're going to reach. Like, we don't need to have low standards. So don't hear me say that you can just quit and not do anything and whatever. Like, but I do think it's really important. There are so many skills and things and lessons you can learn from playing sports that apply to life. Of, hey, the going got tough. What do you do?
Yeah, exactly.
How do you take a step back and try something different? How do you work as a team? Like, what is
How do you
sportsmanship?
lose?
How do you lose gracefully?
Yep.
Yeah.
Like, there are a ton of lessons that I think are super important. So I'm not saying, like, don't push your kids and don't challenge your kids to do hard things. Like, I'm very passionate about people doing hard things.
Yes.
Like, I think that'll be a tangent I'm not going to go down. Like, we need to do more hard things, period. Yeah. We need to challenge ourselves.
Yeah.
Period. We live in a society that is all about comfort and that is all about me. And so when I talk about sports in particular, it's not about pushing your kids to do something hard or pushing people to challenge themselves to grow, because that's how you do grow. Is you've got to challenge yourself.
Yeah.
You've got to do something hard. But it's the mindset of that it can quickly become that this bows down, that everything else bows down to this.
Yes.
And a kid's worth is then tied up in their performance on a sports field. And that is simply just not true.
And to me, it came through loud and clear. It's not pushing them to meet a societal standard. Mm-hmm. It's the same with school. Mm-hmm. Wow. Okay. Yeah, you learn a lot from having to go through grade school. You learn how not to quit. You learn the foundations of the knowledge that you need to get you through life. You learn how to interact with people. All the things that you learn, all those are all important things. So yes, you should show up for school and you should do well. But not so that you can go to freaking Harvard, man. Like, it's so that you can be prepared as a human being to get through this life. Mm-hmm. So that's what came through loud and clear to me. It's when Rob talked about rushing kids through childhood, mm-hmm. that to me, what that looks like is you're rushing them to meet some arbitrary goal that's been placed on us as Americans by the society and the culture that we live in. That's mm-hmm. what came through to me. So, well, and thanks for clearing that up.
And to redefine what is success.
You know, that's a great, that is, because we throw that word around, man. I was on a call yesterday with a bunch of business leaders, and that word got thrown around a lot. And I couldn't help but think the whole time on the call in the back of my head, it's like, you know, I'm sitting here talking to someone who is a billionaire, but I'm the one that's on this call saying that I'm content, that I'm content, that I have everything. Literally, if you asked me, what is one thing that you want to add to your life, materialistically or based around my needs or even my dreams? Nothing. I'm not completely satisfied. I'm not saying that I'm going to stop pushing myself, because that is my nature. But like, success for me is defined, like, I can confidently say I'm successful. That's defined by me. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't mean, successful for me doesn't mean having $1 billion. It just doesn't. So we throw that word around a lot. We don't freaking ever, you have to define that individually. Yeah.
I totally agree. And I think in terms of kids too, I think one of the points I was trying to make is, though, that as a parent myself, I can get wrapped up in my own dreams for what success for my kid looks like.
You mentioned that. Yeah.
And so really what I'm trying to say is, like, sports are a great place to learn, a great place to, like, there's lots of lessons there, but kids need to be allowed to be kids. Play is such an important part of growing up. And I think when we put the pressure on to succeed in a worldly sense of, like, whatever societal standard is, we can take the joy out of things, and then kids don't want to play. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And instead of, hey, you want to try something new? I've got a middle school student who had never played tennis in her life, decided when she was in 6th grade, I want to try out for the tennis team. And I so respected that, because she knew she wasn't going to be good at it. She's playing with people who have been playing tennis their entire lives, and she's brand new at it. But she's like, I want to do this.
Good for her.
And she tried it, and she loved it. She's probably not that good.
Yeah.
But there's joy in that athletic arena and a middle school level that she was allowed to just be a kid. Try something new.
There was a Huberman episode with a lady. I don't know if you listened to it, and it was a really interesting concept. It reminds me of this girl who tried tennis. She was saying they have a bunch of data saying that, like, if you're approaching a kid who did really well, say at a sport, if you tell them you're so good at baseball, it's detrimental. Mm-hmm. It's limiting. Instead of saying, you have put so much effort into this, and I see how hard you're willing to work. And I think I told you about this, Boo.
Yeah, you did.
And I feel like that's an awesome opportunity for her. Like, hey, you're not really that good at tennis, but holy cow, like the bravery and the determination it took, like that is really something to celebrate.
Yeah, well, and just to be like, in terms of pushing kids to do hard things, she wanted to try something. Her parents didn't say, well, you've never done that before, so you shouldn't do that. Mm-hmm. They were like, yeah, we're in. They got her tennis lessons. They tried things. They like, it's like, we're gonna support you in this.
Yeah.
But it's really the effort, because for my own child, my hope is not that he is just a successful person in the sense of like, oh, I want him to be wealthy, and like, I want him to be a godly and good man. Like, that's my goal for his life.
Yeah.
Whatever that looks like. I'm not the one writing the story. I get to be a supporting role in this. And so I'm going to celebrate when he tries something and fails, but he tries his best and he works hard. And I know he left it all out on the field. Even if it wasn't successful, it's like, man, you tried really hard. Let's talk about what didn't go well. Like, let's have a coaching moment. I'm like, what didn't go well? Like, why do you want to try something different next time? Do you like, and just like talking through those things instead of his whole, value being tied into success on anything. Success to me is like, you're somebody who doesn't quit. You're somebody who works hard, that does what's asked of you, and that supports your teammates. Like, that's all I can ask from him.
Yeah.
That would make a better person long term than them just being gifted at the sport.
Right.
I mean, they're going to be more successful in life and have a better, happier. Yeah. Well, that's relative. I wanted to ask one, and I could tell we can wrap it up, but is there anything that people can do? Like, because a lot of people I know have a youth pastor. Is that the right word?
I'm a director. I'm not a pastor.
Oh, so what's your title?
Youth director.
Youth director.
One day I'll be a pastor.
Stop. What can people in the community do? Like, you do a lot. And I hear people all the time at the gym, like just low key when I'm creeping, like come up to you and be like, hey, my daughter or my son, like you made an impact on them. I appreciate that. Like, is there a way they can support you and what you do? Or is that kind of?
Well, first of all is like your prayers for the person in your community who's serving in those roles. Like, this is a really, really hard job, but I've got the best job in the world. Like, I love what I do, and it's praying for them. It's sharing, like, it's money to me when somebody comes up to me and tells me like, hey, you're making an impact. What you're doing matters. Like, that is wind in my sails, because sometimes it is like, kids do dumb things. They're kids. I did dumb things when I was a kid. Like, and so you can get frustrated. Like, am I making a difference? Am I like, is what I'm saying getting through to anybody? And it can kind of get to a dark place. But when you have people that share like, hey, I just want you to know, like, you're doing an awesome job. You're showing up. You're making a difference in my kid's life. Like, those are the things that I think like really help me, energize me to be like, oh, let's go. Like, if I can impact one kid's life, everything I'm doing is worth it. Mm-hmm. That, and then,
I agree with you. It's hard to keep that perspective.
I think, sorry, my train of thought is everywhere.
We've only been at this for like over 2 hours, so
it doesn't feel like it. So, just to like appreciate people. It like I said, this is it's a very time consuming job. It's a very difficult job. But I love it. But ways when people do things tangibly for my family, this feels really like selfish. I'm like, oh, you should do things for me because it's awesome. And I love it.
Well, this applies to people and communities all over
Right.
the United States or the world, man.
Right. But if there's any like tangible way that you can just like, hey, we'd love to bring you dinner, or hey, we'd love to like watch your kids so you and your wife can go on a date, or whatever, like just small tangible things that might be like an inconvenience to you, but are like those are the kinds of things that really speak life to me, because like a lot of my life is pouring out and giving and giving and giving. So, but when somebody like shows interest in me, another third thing I would say is like, just ask how they're doing. Like, don't make everything about your kids. A lot of youth ministry is one-sided in that I ask a question and then a kid answers, and then there's no like, well, how are you doing?
Yeah.
Or like, so, but having a parent come up and just be like, hey, how are you doing? Or and like showing interest in you, because so much of your life is outwardly focused. And then I keep on coming up with things, so sorry.
No, it's perfect.
There's one parent in particular in my life who I adore, and very regularly she looks at me and we'll just pass, like in the community, we'll just see each other, say hey, and she'll be like, hey, are you resting? Are you stopping and resting? And that speaks the world to me, because that tells me that she cares about me and not about my performance with her kids. It's that I matter. And I think that's a huge message, because like I'm still a person too. And I need encouragement. I need those things.
We all do.
Yeah. Those would be a few things.
I think there will be a lot of people listening to this that most people will probably have a director of youth.
That's my technical title.
Oh, why are you looking at me like that, boo?
Well, you got those sunglasses on.
This bright, you guys need to replace this with incandescent. This is just really disturbing to me.
Rob, I forgot to give you your gift.
A gift?
Yeah.
Oh, shucks.
Well, you already know what your gifts are.
I know.
So, you guys know our partners at Barbell Apparel. They have supplied some really good stuff for our podcast guests. So I got a pair of Barbell Apparel jeans right here, which are my personal favorite jeans. I know Rob's real picky about his jeans.
Well,
So-
I've got issues, Chad. So
I'm going to be interested because you asked me about these jeans months ago.
yeah,
And so I'm going to be interested on how you like them. So we got some jeans there. We got some shirts. Thank you, Barbell Apparel, for providing this for the guests. I think you're going to enjoy them, Rob. But you
hope
just
so.
let me know.
I hope so.
And Rob, if people want to find you, what just happened?
I gracefully passed Rob's podcast gifts from Barbell to him.
If people want to find you, Rob, what's your Instagram or whatever? Where do you want?
I don't know.
Are you serious right now?
I really don't know my Instagram handle.
Oh my gosh. Are you looking it up?
Well,
Yes.
is there a place to go where people can support your ministry or?
No,
Lord, Rob. Gotta start a
I'm not a
website.
marketing guy.
Start a website, man.
Do you have it? Because if not, I have it.
Rob_Edens, and you'll get to see all of 2 posts. So enjoy that.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Your Instagram is sorely lacking. Sheesh.
It's probably a private profile too.
No, it's public.
Okay. All right. Good on you, son.
But my family one is private.
Okay.
But that's just mostly pictures of my kid. So
It is all pictures of your kid. Boo, we got super chats.
Did we really?
We got a couple. So the first one was Jax Teller, $10. As parents, we make things easier for our kids. We need to take responsibility for them and teach them that hard work and failures is life. And that was early on in the
I know.
podcast before you guys echoed the exact sentiment.
Thank you, Jackson. Jax, thank you for getting us back on topic, man.
Yeah, he definitely. So Gary Moxon, I think he gave us quid. I don't know what this little thingy is. It's definitely not a dollar sign. Thank you, Gary.
UK.
And then
Who was it? Who was that?
this was Gary Moxon.
Gary. I appreciate you, brother.
So Jax did another one, $20 this time. He said, a good thing to practice as a leader or mentor is to show them that you're willing to fail and everything you ask them to do, you would do in the trenches and do the tasks or skills you ask them. Shows them the same as them. I messed that up, Jax. I'm sorry.
Jax is bringing the word, man.
So-
I never even heard from Jax before.
You know, when he said that was when I was talking about my employee that I didn't
Okay.
want to enter in with, and it was very relevant and good stuff. Ira Beam was the last one, $20. God bless y'all for keeping it real. To Christ be the glory and honor. He paid the sin debt I never could have afforded.
Ira, we love you. We love all you guys that watch and support the podcast, either here on YouTube, just by tuning in, man. You support the podcast, and all you guys that contribute through this super chat. It's unbelievable. I never would have expected it. And all you guys that join us on Patreon and support the show there and everything that we do. This literally would not be possible without you. We could not possibly dedicate the amount of time purchasing the equipment, the time that we put into it, if it wasn't for you guys. You guys are the ones that make this happen. And that to me is just an unbelievable gift that you guys give to us week after week after week. And I don't tell you thank you enough. I'm usually just really hard on you guys and yell at you and try to piss you off sometimes. But I want you to know from the bottom of my heart, you give us an unbelievable gift here at 307 Project to be able to do what we've been called to do. Rob, thank you so much for your time today, man. It's a wonderful conversation, very challenging on many aspects, very informational for me personally. And I'll take these things that we talked about here today moving forward in my own life. And I think that I feel personally better equipped to approach younger people instead of just trying to avoid any contact.
Well, as a hermit, that's got to be hard.
Yeah,
so.
It's hard, but this was a good conversation, man. We love you, Rob.
I love you guys.
All right,
Thanks,
guys.
Rob.
Thanks for tuning in. Enough said.